with that down, let's go on to this here for a second. Pardon me. You know, the other day, Penguin launched and we talked about it and the ratings came out and it's like the biggest ratings thing for HBO, like since The Last of Us launched, and like 5.4 million viewers or something along those lines for the C-level villain of a spinoff from a movie from a couple of years ago. Right? This isn't like a brand new like main hero. This guy, Penguin wasn't even the main villain in the Batman movie. He wasn't even the second main villain. Riddler was the first level villain, Falcone was the second level villain, and Penguin was like the third. And you're doing a spin-off show of that, and it got like for HBO, big numbers for HBO. Now, I saw some conversations online then happen about, and I get it on its surface. Some conversations online started to pop up that I saw in certain circles, like lamenting and arguing, why are they calling Penguin a hit and calling the Acolyte a flop when the Acolyte had 11.1 million viewers? I think that was in one extra day. Like I think the 5.4 for Penguin was like in its first 4 days, and the 11.1 was for Acolyte's first 5 days, but whatever, still a lot more, right? And there are defenders of the Acolyte out there. And if you like the Acolyte, that's awesome. I'm glad that you did. I am actually legitimately jealous because I wish I liked it instead of hating it. But I'm glad you did. And I'm not saying you shouldn't like it. But there are those people saying, well, how come people are calling Penguin a hit and Acolyte a flop when the Acolyte had 11.1 million views? I think you have a point in the sense of it may be a little too early to call the Penguin a hit. We got to see what the numbers do as the episodes progress. Of course, the next episode, I believe, comes out on Sunday. You can double check that for me, but I think the next episode Penguin
it does.
comes out on Sunday. And then we'll come out on Sundays here on out.
Right.
So maybe it's a little too early for that. But I thought about this and I started to discuss with somebody online. And I said, well, here's why people are calling the Acolyte a flop and not the Penguin. Now, I bring it up because when I'm going through my news reading this morning, I come across this article in Forbes where obviously the writer in Forbes, Paul Tassi over at Forbes, was seeing the same conversations. And he actually wrote, and I point this out because he actually brought up the same points I was bringing up in this other online conversation, saying the Acolyte versus the Penguin viewership comparisons don't really add up. So guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Acorns. Guys, everybody knows we should be investing our money. That's why it's an important priority to me. But there are several obstacles to getting started. First of all, a lot of people think you need a lot of money to start investing, or that it's complicated, or you need to do a lot of research. Well, our sponsor, Acorns, makes it simple. You see, Acorns makes it easy to start automatically saving and investing in your future. You don't need a lot of money or expertise to invest with Acorns. In fact, you can get started with just your spare change. Acorns recommends an expert-built portfolio that fits you and your money goals, then automatically invests your money for you. My own experience has been great. See, I actually started using Acorn years ago as kind of a first foot in the door to get started in investing. I set up the automatic deposits, and before you knew it, every couple of weeks I'd check in on it and watching my money grow. It was fantastic. So guys, head to acorns.com/Campea or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. Client testimonial. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/Campea. Here's what I said, and here's what I believe you can say to a friend who likes the Acolyte and is wondering, well, hold on a second, what's with the double standard? Why are we calling the Penguin a hit and we're calling the Acolyte a flop when the Acolyte had basically almost double the views? Here's why. And again, maybe we're calling the Penguin a hit a little prematurely. Maybe we got to wait. But that aside, put that aside for a second. The Acolyte cost $180 million to make. And while we do not have the numbers, I don't think, I looked around, I couldn't find the production budget numbers for Penguin. From my understanding, it's below the $100 million mark. So that means you're talking about at least half the budget. Well, John, budget doesn't excuse whether people watched or not. Okay, fair enough. That's only point one. That's only point one. but I do want to remind you that in the world of streaming, it is an important part when a streamer is evaluating the success of their show. They want X number of viewers per $1 million spent. And if they spend an exorbitant amount, I still don't look. I went back and watched some scenes from The Acolyte again. I still don't see where they spent $180 million. I just don't see it. Even if the movie's bad, like there are bad movies that I go there are bad $150 million movies that I at least look at the screen and say, well, I can see where they spent the money. I can't see where they spent $180 million on The Acolyte, but that's aside. So when a streamer is evaluating the success ratio of a show they put out, how much it costs them to get the results they got is an important part of their calculation. So I'm just putting that out there, but that's only part one. The second point and reason that people called Acolyte a flop was because, yes, The Acolyte debuted to 11.1 million views, which was huge, fantastic. But then the ratings dropped to the bottom of the ocean like an anvil. In the very second week, just the second week, it fell out of the top 10 streaming ratings altogether and never popped back on until its finale. And even because you expect a big rush on the finale, but even the finale only hit number 10 on the streaming chart. Number 10 for its finale. And they did release the numbers that The Acolyte ended up being the lowest viewed Star Wars show they've ever done. So yes, they started incredibly strong. And we talked about that after week 1 of The Acolyte. It started really strong, at least viewership wise, but then everybody ditched. I didn't ditch until episode 5 or 4, one of the two. Then I ditched because I couldn't take it anymore.
I think I ditched after 3.
3? Well, you're a better man than me. But that was the other thing. That's another reason. That's point number 2. Point number 1, it's cost dollar to result ratio is way bad. That's one reason they called it a flop and why ultimately they canceled it. Number 2, the ratings dropped through the floor. And that's another reason. And then third, and obviously, while The Acolyte did have its fans and still does have its fans, and that's great. That's awesome. I celebrate that. The undisputable reality is, though, that when you look around, at least from my perception, more people were kind of like me and were very dissatisfied with the show. So when you combine basically negative feedback, horrible ratings, and a cost to result ratio that is just not acceptable, that is why they labeled that a flop. While HBO, on the other hand, and by the way, HBO is not as big as Disney Plus. HBO Max, they put out a spin-off series of a third-level villain that cost way less and got the highest ratings on a premiere they've had in well over a year since The Last of Us. So that's why they're looking at that and saying, that's a hit, even though it had less initial viewership than The Acolyte, which people point out and say that's a flop. Now, let's see what the Penguin does in week 2, 3, and 4. But I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to pull out my inner Nostradamus.
Don't do it, John. Don't do it.
I know it's dangerous. You're not supposed to tell people the future.
Once you open that box, we can't close it.
You can't shut it. I think the Penguin ratings are going to go up. I don't know that. I mean, obviously I don't know that for sure, but a lot of people watched it. And at least from my perception where I'm sitting here, where a lot of film fans talk to me, it seems like the vast majority of people really liked it. And I think word of mouth has gotten out there and the awards buzz is already starting. I think as opposed to The Acolyte, whose viewership dropped through the floor, I think we're going to start seeing the Penguin viewership go up.
I mean, tell me the last HBO series that they put premiered every new episode on primetime on Sunday night that was bad. This has got.
See, I thought you were asking a dumb question until you said that was bad. I'm like, oh,
the only one I can think of
that they had like Sunday.
Actually, what was the
Sundays
one with,
like their
what was the one with Johnny Depp's daughter in it? Was that HBO?
Or was that Amazon?
That might have been.
It might have been Max. That was not the Superstar. It was called the Icon, the Idol.
Idol.
Idol. That's what it was called.
Idol. But
Okay, that sucked.
but if that wasn't
That
if that
sucked.
wasn't HBO, then
no, the people online saying, "Yep, that one was Max."
yeah.
Oh, so
And
that-
I would say How to Make It in America, which was trying to be an Entourage type of spinoff that took place in New York, and it just fell flat. One season,
But generally speaking, when you
But-
look at the HBO primetime stuff,
far and far and away.
Succession and Last of Us and House of the Dragon and like they just win. Their batting average is always incredibly high. It's not, they don't bat 1,000.
No.
I'm using baseball terminology.
There
You
we
like that,
go.
Jonathan?
There we
They're not
go.
batting 1,000, but their batting average is higher than anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think the viewership on this is going to go up. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Like, have you seen the discussions going on? I mean, like, listen, on the surface, I think it is a fair question. Why call the Penguin a hit when the Acolyte had more than double the views, at least in its premiere episode? Does the explanation I just gave like sound reasonable? Can you think of some other points to raise? Maybe I'm missing some points on the Acolyte side. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.